Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in on this Monday, and that is what it is. Another good-looking day outside, at least. Well, I say that. Don Fischer with us. Don, you're up closer to Indianapolis. They're just south. Someone told me it was snowing to beat the band yesterday, and I looked out, and I'm like, man, it's not here at all. It's just a little rain, and we're not that far away. But did you get some snow yesterday?
Oh, yeah. It snowed. I was on my way to church at about 7:45 yesterday morning, and the snow was coming down, and by the time I got out of church, my windows were covered. And it was not cold enough for it to hang around very long, but it was on the ground for a few minutes, and it was on my back porch, and yeah, it snowed.
It's crazy because geographically we're not that far south, but we didn't see a lick of it, thank goodness, but I'm sure that won't be long. Talking about the up and downs, the good and the bad and the ugly of Indiana this over the weekend. We'll talk about all of it. We might as well get to the bad and the ugly right now, and that's IU football. Of course, losing to Rutgers over the weekend, and kind of a rock bottom scenario, as Zach called it, and accurately called it in the Indy Star, and it's kind of what it is. They've gone from not the mountaintop, but certainly heading towards that, and have just kind of been knocked down off of that, Don, and back down to the abyss.
Well, I don't know what to say, to be quite honest about it, because I've seen this picture before at Indiana under other coaches throughout the years. Having done it as long as I have, we've had a lot of disappointing seasons in my time. Maybe it's me. Maybe I ought to quit. I don't know. But I've heard some people suggest that. But at the same time, this is so – the biggest problem with this season has been the expectations. The expectations that Indiana was going to do something special this year because of last year's success, going to a bowl game a Florida bowl game that Indiana had never been to. There was so much excitement with the entire fan base coming back, with all the players that were coming back on this Indiana football team. The experience, the level of competitiveness that this team showed a year ago, and now you're 2-8. And you haven't been able to beat anybody of significance. Western Kentucky was a decent ball club, but again, certainly not a Power 5 type school. And Idaho was awful. And everybody else that you played competitively early on for the most part. Certainly they had a chance to beat a very highly regarded Cincinnati team. They had a chance to knock off a Michigan State team. They had both those games in their grasp if they play like they are capable of playing. Couldn't finish the job. And everybody else now is starting to pound Indiana. And why is that happening? And I don't want to say this team has quit, but it looks like they have. And that's the problem. Saturday was just atrocious. You fumble the first play from scrimmage and give Rutgers a touchdown and 2 plays after that. You have 6 turnovers in the ball game. You have 2 fourth down plays that turn the ball over in good field position for the opposition again. You get beat 38-3 by our football team that's not as good as your team. And Rutgers is just a very average football team at best. All you've got to do is go out there and play your game, and you've got a shot. And Indiana didn't play the way they're capable of playing in this contest. And the only thing you could say is these guys have lost faith or confidence or belief that they can beat people. And I don't know how else you put it. And I'm not trying to disparage the coaching staff. I'm not trying to disparage individual players. It's just a fact of life. I mean, it's hard to to say something other than what you see on the field right now. And what we're seeing is a football team that is in a big time struggle with their mentality, a big time struggle with the physical play that they need to play with. I actually thought the defense, kind of hung in there Saturday as best they could under the circumstances with what the offense was doing to field position and giving the other team every opportunity to beat them.
Yeah, and that's not the first time this year that the defense has been put in a lot of tough situations. And a lot of times the defense has carried the team, like you said, and they just I hate to say anyone's ever quit, but it's the eye test, and you just look and say, man, the effort is just not there, especially when you lose to a team that had only scored 20 points was their high point, and they nearly double that against Indiana. And now you've got 2 games left that you have to worry about, a home game against Minnesota, and then you got to go on a road to a team that is kind of trending up, and it's a rival game, and they're probably looking – there was nothing they'd love more than to pound Indiana on their last game on the way out to a bowl game this year.
Absolutely. That's what you've got to look forward to. So the question is, can you turn this thing around where you're competitive again? Because they weren't competitive Saturday. I mean, how can you say anything else? They were not competitive. And when you're not competitive, it's first of all, it's not fun to watch. And with all the expectations that we've had this year, it just doubles the disappointment in what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and then Renata mentions you start having situations like Devin Matthews and Peyton Hendershot apparently getting into a little tussle, and that stuff happens all the time with any teams. But when it happens at this point, it's kind of like the basketball season last year. Trace Jackson Davis, I think Christian Lander, there was just some issues with guys, and when that stuff starts happening, it's usually the result of just things that have just built up, and I think that's what is going on with Indiana right now.
Well, and when you have that, whatever confrontation took place on Saturday on the sideline, it gets magnified because of the frustration that's going on with this football team and with the struggles that are taking place on the field. It gets magnified. And so and everybody's taking shots, and that's the way it is. And you've got to understand that and basically turn off your social media if you don't want to take shots, because that's all you're going to get at this point in the season, especially under these circumstances.
Well, we can move on to something more positive and talk about basketball. I forgot to mention Charlie's not with us because he's filling in as a phys ed teacher for the next couple of weeks. So he's teaching today. He was laughing when he was telling me about it. He goes, I don't know how I got roped into this, but I was doing it as a favor. So he's going to be teaching. So that's why he's not with us today. But he'll be with us the next couple of weeks, though. But on the basketball side of things, man, a difference between the first game and the second game was resounding. The effort, Trace Jackson Davis, he looked like a man on a mission from the word go. There were a lot of guys. I mean, I could go through a roster of guys that did things differently and more, and just the team looked so much better. Of course, when you hit shots, Don, that makes everything look better, and they did. They hit a lot. The shooting was better. The shot selection was better. There were times when I think they maybe have forced a few things, and there's some things we'll talk about, Parker Stewart being one of those. But other than that, it's just a lot of positive things. This team is learning and getting better as they go.
Well, to me, the first half of the Eastern Michigan game, I thought was special. I really thought Indiana played extremely well in the first half of that ball game. They took Eastern Michigan out of everything they wanted to do from a defensive standpoint. I'm talking about Indiana's defense was what took Eastern Michigan out of what they wanted to do offensively. And then the offense, I thought, looked sharp. I really thought they played well. Parker Stewart did knock down the first 2 threes of the ball game for Indiana in that contest. And then the second half, after the initial 2 minutes of the ball game where they built a 21-point lead, it was, I think, 17 at halftime. All of a sudden, everybody started standing around, and it was the offense got totally stagnant. The defense still hung in there to some degree, and without question, I think they played hard. But defensively, or when another team gets a guy that Noah Farrakhan can flat shoot it. And this kid from Eastern Michigan started hitting shots. So he got hot, and everything he threw up there went down. We've seen that with guys like the kid from Iowa, the short guard from Iowa. No, the other kid. Bohannon.
Yes, the guy that's been there for 18 years.
Exactly, and still there. And that guy, when he gets hot, I mean, he just gets on a roll. It doesn't matter what kind of shot he takes, it goes in. And that's kind of what happened with Farrakhan in this ball game. But Indiana's offense got stagnant. The offense didn't do the same things, and they started standing around. And so it was deja vu is the term I use, because that's what it looked like last year. That's how Indiana looked at the end of the season, playing offense. And standing around and waiting for something to happen and nobody making it happen. So, but they made the plays at the end that were critical, and they won the ball game. And Mike was happy about making the plays at the end. He says, we got work to do from an offensive standpoint. They come back the next ball game against Northern Illinois, a team that had just knocked off Washington on the road, a bit Pac-12 team. And Northern is a ball club that is kind of fitting all the pieces together too under a first-year coach. And Indiana absolutely destroyed them. From the very beginning of the ball game to the very end of the contest, it was no contest. Northern Illinois couldn't do anything against IU, and it was really, really special. So the truth of the matter is, what we saw on Friday night, I think, is what we're going to see a lot more of throughout this season, and I think everybody is excited about that, because this defense right now is special. And I say that because of how hard they play, and the transition of these guys in switching, the man-to-man switching that they're doing right now, I think is special. I've always wondered why there wasn't more switching by Indiana basketball teams in the past, because that's the way the game is played right now, the speed with which it's played, and the strength and the athleticism of players these days. Switching is an absolute necessity in my mind. And all of a sudden, that's what we're seeing. And Mike Woodson has his philosophy on defense. It is strictly man-to-man, but it's a switching man-to-man, and I love it. So I'm excited. I really am. Everything I saw on Friday night told me that what we have expected to see from this Indiana basketball team is what we're going to see.
Yeah, I agree with you. They just looked completely different, as they did not stop playing. They played basically for 40 minutes against Northern Illinois, and that was the difference. There was no standing around. Trace Jackson Davis was one of those who played the entire time. Race Thompson, I just raved about. I love his workman. He's a blue-collar. I call him a blue-collar baller. He's just, that's what he does. He's always around the basket, whether he's tipping, getting a rebound, drawing a foul. And to have that, he had a double-double. And to have a guy who is kind of your off, I don't want to call him an off player, but he's not the featured player.
Right.
But when you got a non-featured player pulling down double-doubles, you're going to win a lot of games. And the shooting was so much better. And I think better shot selection was part of that. Miller Kopp and Parker Stewart still searching. I think Miller Kopp is going to be a guy that is just always there for this team. And when they need him, he's probably going to have a big game. Parker Stewart still looking to get more shots, I think, from him. He's probably the best three-point shooter on the team. But I think everyone's still looking to find their role. But the offense looked so much more in sync than it did the previous game.
Well, and a big part of that are the 2 point guards. Xavier Johnson was terrific in this ball game against Northern, 13 points. But his playmaking ability, his quickness, his strength as a guard. And Rob Finney's always been one of the strongest guys on this basketball team through his years at Indiana. Even when he wasn't playing his best basketball, you could always count on him playing at a very high level on the defensive end of the floor. I think these two guys complement each other. I think they both have a role in this basketball team that's critical. I just liked everything I saw about Friday night. I can just tell you that. And I think it's going to be increasingly important for Miller Kopp and for Parker Stewart to continue to progress and they're feeling their way too. They're on a new basketball team with several players that are new to this program. They're all trying to figure out their roles. It'll come, and it doesn't ever always come at once. And if it does, it's rare. So I think everybody's got to figure it out. I think they will figure it out. Parker Stewart is the best shooter on this basketball team. I don't think there's any question about that. And he's going to find his role and how he fits in. And when he starts playing or shooting the basketball like he's capable, it's going to be fun to watch because he can flat shoot.
Absolutely. And a little change in the coach's show this week. Tonight, Coach Woodson's show is still at 7:05 at Southern Stone Restaurant. You'll be there with that. But you have a game on Wednesday. So the game, Indiana's game on Wednesday takes precedence. And then you'll have Coach Allen back at Southern Stone on Thursday for his show, I believe, correct?
Yep, that is correct. It's a busy week again, as all weeks in November are, with both football and basketball ongoing and both coaches' shows going on and games going on. So it's another busy week. It's going to be fun, though, and we're looking forward to it. There's no question that this time of year is always like this is. It's very chaotic. At the same time, it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. St. John's coming up on Wednesday, too. So another test, or probably the truest test they've had this season.
Yep. They're coached by Mike Anderson, who's a terrific basketball coach. Been around the block. Indiana saw him twice back in 2019. Early in the season, Indiana lost to him by a point down in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And then they beat them in the NIT that year, which got Coach Anderson fired, apparently, because that's when he was let go. And now he's been at St. John's for the last 3 years, and he's revamped that program. And there's no question this is going to be a challenge. They've got a heck of a player in Champagny, who is a terrific scorer. And Posh Alexander is another kid that's really, really good in this basketball team. And my friend John Minko, who worked for me for 7 years back in the day, does their play-by-play. We talked last night, and he says they're a good ball club. It's going to be an interesting matchup, to say the least. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to hearing you on the call. I know that everyone's happy that it won't be on BTN again, but we'll talk about that next week. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers. Thank you, sir. I can't thank you enough.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Appreciate you having me.
You bet. Brought by Don Fischer, brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant here in Bloomington. It's the corner of Patterson and Rogers. Make sure you head out there for the coaches' shows. Don Fischer will be there tonight with Coach Woody at 7:05. Patterson and Rogers is when that takes place and gets underway. Then he'll be back. The coaches' show for the football this week is on Thursday. We got lots more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration. So we're on break-wise, but we're not, right?
Yeah, we're live on YouTube, yeah.
No, I meant break-wise. We're
on, yeah. The only thing you have to worry about is getting out a few minutes early at the end. And Mitchell says he'll join at 9:40. I know you kind of, yeah. I know it was kind of last minute.
Maybe
but.
That's all right. Maybe we can find something else fun to talk about.
You can talk about, I'm sure you watched the basketball game. I mean, I could be wrong, but. And speaking of basketball, I'm currently uploading a quote, or I got 3 clips actually. I was working on football ones, but I didn't get them finished in time before that segment ended. But I've got a Mike Woodson comment. I've got a comment from actually it's kind of a dual comment from Galloway and Geronimo, both of them talking about Trace Jackson Davis's improvement.
When did they talk?
They talked after the game.
Leal and Geronimo?
No, Geronimo and Galloway.
Oh, that was who they brought in?
Yep. I mean, Galloway had 7 points. I mean, I know it's odd.
I don't care. He had 7 junk points. I mean, I don't care, but just
you got to think it's one of those games. This is an NIU. You're not going to have a chance to come in and talk to the media probably much the rest of the season.
Yeah, I know, but Race Thompson had a double-double.
I think he talked last game. That's probably why I didn't bring him in. Comment about Galloway talking about the defense. I think it's about the defense. Hustle, something like that. Geronimo and Galloway commenting on Trace Jackson Davis. And let me check what I got about Mike Woodson, just so I don't screw it up.
I hate Mondays, man. I'm so tired. I woke up tired. Got to go to that press conference.
No, it's about, I guess, just over. Yeah, Mike Woodson's talking about Trace Jackson Davis as well. So,
yeah, they're going to Indy, Tim, but I got bad news for you. What awaits them on that other end of that trip is not going to be good.
who is it? Center Grove?
I thought that, no, I think they have to play Cathedral.
Oh. Did they play Dason McCullough's team?
Yes.
And they beat them? Nice. Oh, shoot. We're ready to come back from break.
They're not very good.
You can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. And it is a Monday. Tiring day. I don't like Mondays, man. Wake up tired and you got so much to do. And that is what today is like. Coming off Sunday. Looking forward to talking to Angelo Pizzo today. Again, joining with us. Of course, the creator, writer, director of Hoosiers. They had a showing over the weekend at the Hoosier Gym. You know, we've had the director on here recently, but it was a kind of a director's cut that had never happened before. Someone with the Hoosier Gym actually put this together, I think, and took the deleted scenes and added them in where they're supposed to be to change the movie. And it had nothing but positive reviews. So looking forward to talking to Angelo about that, a little bit about Hoosier basketball. So that'll be fun. The Colts get a win yesterday. The Indiana women's basketball team gets a pretty big win yesterday as they welcomed the number 13 Kentucky Wildcats into the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. But no problem for Indiana as they roll in that game. What was that final, like 88-67 or something? IU's schedule still features 4 more games against teams currently ranked in the top 5. Let me say that again. 4 more games of teams ranked in the top 5. I thought Indiana football had a tough schedule. Gee whiz. That's crazy. But Indiana could be one of the teams in the top 5 when the new schedule comes out, when the new rankings come out. This is the highest point they've ever been ranked in program history right now. But they've got a really good team. That poll comes out today at some point. So if it comes out while we're on, we'll have to pull that up and check that out. But man, can you imagine being in the top 5 and still see Stanford is one of those teams that they could play? Man, how about the possibility of hosting NCAA tournament games for Indiana? It's a home court advantage. IU has never had. IU still has to play Stanford and North Carolina State in the Big Ten schedule. But big win on Sunday helps them. That's big, man. Congratulations to them for that. But I expected that. They are just so solid. The Colts, they get a win over the hapless Jaguars, but a win's a win in the NFL, right? Especially the Jags were coming off of a win the previous week. I didn't see a lot of that game. I'm not going to lie. I was trying to catch up on sleep. But Carson Wentz is doing what he needs to do. Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback for Jacksonville. He's a rookie, just trying to get through on a bad team. That's rough. Being a rookie on a bad team in the NFL, that's about as hard as it gets. But if you look back at the Colts, when Peyton Manning first arrived, what were they, 4 and whatever? 4 and 14, something like that. So you got to build it, man. You got to build it. Look forward to talking to Matt Taylor about that later on in the week. But they still have a shot at the playoffs. I don't think there's a doubt about that. If they continue to win, they can their shot at the playoffs is still there, actually, as crazy as it sounds. And it is crazy to think that, but without question. Indiana football, of course, kind of in the dumpster. There's no way of saying otherwise. John, I don't know if you have any sound from that right now.
No, I have basketball right now, though.
Yeah. Tom Allen basically said that, of course, he's frustrated, yada, yada, all that stuff that he is. We'll hear from it later, but I asked him about any potential personnel changes prior to the end of the season, which I knew that what the answer probably was already. Most of us do. That's not how most people have done it in Indiana, and that's probably not how he's going to do it. And he affirmed that by saying that that everything would be evaluated, but there won't be any changes until after the season. Which, I mean, I'm okay with it on one side because the players that you have, what does that say? It says that you're not doing something right. You have to do it better, for one thing. I know one of their concerns are recruits. They have to make sure those recruits are secured. Josh Hoover being one of those. Nick Sheridan's the lead recruiter on Josh Hoover. How does that affect him? It's an important question. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but there's no question changes are going to have to be made. It's a tough situation for Tom Allen to be in, but you know what? When you're the head coach of any football program, much less a Big Ten football program, one that had reached some of the best heights in its history and was poised to really flex and break through to a level it had never seen, only to be backslapped and just go tumbling down the hill to the rock bottom. And I mean the rock bottom. Shocking to see. How do you fall that far? I mean, I have opinions, and there are definitely reasons. A lot of it is offensive. A lot of it's in player development. I love what Tom Allen has done, but I just think there's been a couple of legacy hires, guys that just should not have been hired and promoted. And it doesn't make them bad people or whatever. It's about winning, though, man. Yes, sir?
In a couple seconds, I'll have the Rutgers comment you're talking about. Okay, here we go. It's ready.
Well, was this you talk about the one where I asked?
Yeah.
At the very end, I asked him about, is there any possibility of making personnel changes? Here's Tom Allen. There you go.
You're talking about personnel as in coaching? Okay. Now, those decisions will all be made when the season's over as far as just evaluation of that. You know, nothing's going to happen right now. You know, so, but just everything gets evaluated. You know, you have a season like this, you always evaluate everything anyways. But a season like this and things don't go the way you want them to go, you got to take a hard look at every part of your program, all three phases, all the coaches and myself included. But bottom line is that you know, we got to find a way to, you know, win a football game right now.
Got to find a way to win a football game, and that's where his focus is. And the fact of thinking of having to someone like Nick Sheridan, who he's been around for several years now, to have to, first of all, to not only fire him, but you have to find the guy. Is that McCullough, who's on staff already? It's a thought, but I don't know that he's been a coordinator anywhere. I don't know that he has.
He has not been a coordinator. I can confirm that for you.
So there you've got that. So he's not called plays. Yeah, I know he came from Kansas City. I know he was around that, but that doesn't wave a magic wand and make you be able to do things. I'm not saying he can't. Maybe he can. Maybe he is the next guy up. But here's the one thing that I said 2 years ago. The reason I said that Nick Sheridan was a bad fit for the offensive coordinator position 2 years ago on this very show when they made the hire, I said that was a mistake. And here's the reason why. Tom Allen is still a great guy and has had the success that we've all seen, but he needs experienced coordinators around him. He needs guys that have been there longer, to me, especially and critically on the offensive side of the ball, because that is not an area where Tom Allen has a lot of experience. He's not an offensive guy. He's said that he needs an offensive head coach. That is a statement he has made. And that's basically because he's a defensive guy. He's not an offensively minded guy. So he needs a Kalen DeBoer type on his staff at all times. And that's why I said Nick Sheridan was a bad hire 2 years ago. He's not a Kalen DeBoer. He's more like a Mike DeBoard, who he had been with and trained under for several years. That's a guy who was already fired from the IU staff for being a boring offensive coordinator, boring and unsuccessful. Guess what you got when you hired his protege? Looks to me like you got the same thing again. Shocker. I'm not shocked, but I'm not trying to throw stones and all that, but it is what it is, man. And that's the truth. So, tough decisions are going to have to be made. But now, as opposed to 2 years ago, when it was the hot position, red hot, could have had anyone. And that's why I said it. I wish we can go back to that and get that clip or any of those clips, John, where I was talking about it. And that's the reason. It is because that position was red hot with Indiana's success, and you could have had about anybody that you wanted. Now, is that position look so good? How good does the Indiana offensive coordinator position look right now? Seriously. Look at the mess you have with that. Your offensive line is a mess. You have no idea who your quarterback is. You have no idea who your quarterbacks are going to be next year. Your running back room has been decimated. That's not quite the picture that it was 2 years ago. So that hire, this new hire, if there is one, and surely to gosh, there will be, who's going to do that? Who wants that job now? So Michael McFadden talked about, he was asked part of the reason, what's going on, what's happening, why even the defensive side, what's going on, and here's what he had to say after the game.
Yeah, no, I thought we had a pretty good week actually at practice, like he said. I mean, from what I saw defensively, I thought we, performed pretty good during practice. I thought our red zone play could have been a little bit better during the game, but I think we did do a good job this week preparing for him.
That's not the quip I was expecting. There was another one where he talked about there's a lot of things the guys could have done in the preseason to prepare better, to better be prepared. He kind of took the team to task. And it's great to hear that now, but and I understand that. I remember, I know this is completely different, but I remember being in high school and we were coming off our junior year, best team in the area. We were ranked. We were on a really, really good team. We lost a lot off of that team coming back our senior year, and all these expectations were being heaped on us. And I was like, man, I don't see it. As a player, I noticed in the preseason, we weren't being worked quite as hard as we had in the past. And I remember thinking, man, this is kind of easy. And it came back to haunt us. We ended up going 5-5. So I get that there's easy ways for letdowns, and it's real, man. It's real. And this team has kind of checked out. I think that's how it looks. John, where are we on time? I have no idea on the Monday since we changed.
Well, we'll have Mitchell Page here joining us in about 4 minutes. We can break now if you want, or you can wait a couple minutes.
All right, fine. I'll wait a couple minutes to break. That's what is coming up. I just wanted to see when the next break was. Yeah. But yeah, that's where they are. But you got IU basketball to look forward to, and they continued to look better, like I said, in their last game. Man, that was a great performance that we saw the other night. Or a lot better. I shouldn't say great. It was a lot better. Parker Stewart, yeah, he's got to find his way. You can't have a starter that plays half the game and his entire stat line was 2 rebounds, 2 fouls, and a steal. 0 for 5 shooting, 0 for 4 from behind the 3-point line. Miller Kopp is the other one. 4 points on 1 of 4 shooting. He took 1 3-point shot, 2 of 2 at the free throw line. He had 2 rebounds, an assist, and that's in 19 minutes. Another starter. I expect Miller Kopp to be a guy that on a night where Xavier Johnson or Trace Jackson Davis or Race Thompson are not exceeding, or someone's not playing that well, that he's a guy that can and will step up because he's played too well. But I think he's on a team. He's never been on a team with this much talent, obviously, coming in from Northwestern. He's surrounded by talent he is not accustomed to. We were able to see everybody in that game. Michael Durr, Leo Lander, Galloway, Duncombe even. Tamar Bates is another one that's got he'll find his groove. He played 14 minutes the other night. Hit a 3-pointer. But we're going to take a break. Looking forward to it. We got plenty. Angelo Pizzo is going to join us a little bit later, talking about we'll talk some IU basketball, but also about the re-showing of the Hoosiers with the new cuts in it. It was pretty cool. Looking forward to that. I wish I could have made it over there, but too much going on this weekend. So we'll look forward to that. Plenty of basketball to talk about as well. Back with it here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Right after this, brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. If you're looking for a deal, they've certainly got them. $0 down, 0% APR financing. Get out to Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, located on Liberty Drive. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
The baseball season is up.
What's up, John?
Good morning, sir.
We don't have to talk about IU, or what are we talking about today?
He's kind of beat the football horse to death already.
Okay, good.
If you want to talk about basketball.
Let's talk about
I know you're a former football guy, but
let's talk about the IU ladies, man. They're rocking. Did you watch them yesterday?
No, I was actually coming back from St. Louis. I was on the road yesterday.
Got you. They were.
So I didn't even watch. I was vicariously watching the football game on Twitter on Saturday, which it didn't seem like I missed much.
No, they're disinterested. I mean, they'll be 2-10. They suck.
2-10, man.
2-10.
Here's the thing. So you weren't on the 1-11 Kevin Wilson team, right?
No,
Even that team looked like they cared, from what I remember when they were one. I mean, I know it was like his first season, so it makes sense. But 2-10
you couldn't
with this.
I mean, watching Ty Freifogel was just an embarrassment. It was awful. He would get up and just kind of walk to the sideline like he couldn't wait for the year to be over. Suck. Oh well. All right, I'm gonna make some coffee real quick.
All right. Kilroy's.
It's a classic. I've worn the shirt so much, it's like wearing a
First, I
black
thought it
shirt.
was a Pacer shirt.
That's what it was supposed to be. It's got Oladipo on the back.
Oh, okay.
Talk about another guy that lost a whole bunch of money. Jeez.
All right, Jim, if you're close by, we got 20 seconds.
Months and $0 down. Or how about a brand new 2021 Honda Passport? Also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is a decent Monday out there. Joined now by the great Mitchell Page.
What's up,
How
dude?
are you, brother? How are you,
Good.
sir?
How
was your weekend?
It was great. I was miserable for 7 hours on Saturday, but other than that, it was a great, relaxing weekend.
Yeah, it's a little easier to take now because you're kind of starting to expect it, which is a sad, sad thing.
Yeah. I was more upset. I'm a Miami fan as well, so I was more upset watching them play Florida State than anything. But
that I was thinking how big that game used to be. That used to be one of the. That used to be must-see TV, man. Florida State, and Miami. What the hell? How can three teams like that have all been major players and in the state, as I say that, I stop because I'm like, well, look at Indiana basketball. It's the same thing. Yeah. How can you be in the middle of one of the vacuums that produces the talent that you need?
Right.
Florida, of course, produces more football talent than other than maybe Texas,
maybe,
or California. The amount of talent comes out of Florida is sick, and it's the same with basketball. So Indiana should always be, but I don't see how all three of those damn teams suck as bad as they do. Florida State, and Florida. Did Florida end up losing to who the hell were they playing?
No, they gave up 52, but they scored 70. Who did they play?
Samford.
Samford.
Samford, not Stanford, but Samford from Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah, he went in the swamp and took it to him. I love it.
They gave up 40-something points in the first half.
Yeah. Hey, they gave up 52. They gave up 52, but they scored 70.
That means they didn't give up much in the second half. I know, but that's odd, man. That's weird.
Yeah. It was a weird game. I was stuck watching IU. But I've heard you beat that up. I don't even want to talk about them.
There's nothing to talk about it.
It was an absolutely lackluster, uninspired effort, and that's that. That's my 3 seconds.
Well, as a player, though, to get to this point and to know you have 2 games left, and not only do you have 2 games left, one of those is on the road at Purdue. How are these guys, when we are seeing them at home? I don't want to say that they've quit. I don't want to accuse them of that, but when we see a mailed-in performance, maybe I'm trying to think of how to say it without really just cutting on somebody. Which normally I'm not afraid to do that, but I'm trying not to. But that's what is the biggest fear. When you see them mailing it in at home against a team that you should beat, that scares me because Minnesota needs a win. Purdue doesn't need it. But, man, with talking to Don Fischer, they're going to love kicking the crap out of Indiana on their last game of regular season as they head into the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game that maybe has never had the excitement that the Miami-Florida State games had nationally, but I mean it's still the biggest game on both teams' calendars. I know for a fact that it is. So they're going to come in and IU better figure out something or they're going to get beat by 70. Because Purdue took it too. I mean, Ohio State is as good as anybody in the country probably right now, especially on offense. So that was always going to be a tough ask, but they were still able to score. And it's going to be a long.
I'm not a big bettor
on Saturday,
but I bet some games over the weekend.
Did you? Tell me.
Our buddy Jeffrey the Greek was one on, but the one I did not take was his lock. I'm not trying to beat on. His lock was Purdue covering the spread, and I kind of liked it. I ended up not using it.
What was the spread?
Like 21 dropped to 20. Ohio State covered.
Yeah, I mean,
that was like yikes.
The Ohio State is. I've heard some talk about their maybe defensive backfield not being great, but they're turning it on big time. For whatever anybody was saying early, like getting beat by Oregon, Ohio State's lost it. They're not the favorites anymore. What a turnaround that's been. They're unbelievable. They're kind of 3-headed attack at wide receiver with a quarterback that's unfortunately going to be a terror for the Big Ten for the next at least 2 years.
Well, I just found out I lost my last bet. I fell asleep. I bet the Raiders. The Raiders. I took the Raiders at home plus 2.5.
That was a good bet. I thought it would have been a good bet, but
I didn't. It was like $40 or I'd won or something, 59. I wagered $59 because it was getting it back down to even. Okay. I bet on a couple of prop bets yesterday. I don't do that normally ever, but I bet on the Bills to win and Stephon Diggs to first touchdown score.
I love that.
That was only a $50 bet that was worth $425 if it hits.
Those bets are awesome. I used to always bet on TJ Warren to make over like 1.5 threes for the Pacers games.
Well, they had some of those.
Yeah, it was so fun to watch. It makes it so much more fun to watch. But I would only bet like $1 or something, and I'm on the edge of my seat for all 4 quarters, just fully invested.
Well, how about this one? I had the Paytons, the Titans, and the Steelers all to win yesterday. The freaking Steelers, the Steelers and the Lions. You know what happened? They tied.
Didn't the kid didn't he miss the kick to win the game? And he just wasn't even close. It just was like the worst kick in NFL history.
It looked like me kicking that ball. I'm like, what the hell was that?
With your bad neck or before your bad neck?
That looked like me kicking it any day, man. It was a horrible kick. I was like, and nobody touched it either. That was kind of funny. One other prop bet I bet was Jonathan Taylor to score the first TD and the Colts win. I thought that was a really good one.
That's tough. Didn't they score it? First one they scored on was a block punt?
I can't remember, but yes, I think so.
I think it was a block punt.
Those are just you roll the dice on, man.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun.
That's okay. I hit some college football.
Yeah. Did you bet on the IU ladies? Because goodness, are they good?
I don't think so because I don't think they put lines out for women's basketball, do they? I was just thinking that. Do they really?
They sure do. I think so. I can't. I'm in South Carolina. I'm not allowed to bet anymore. But
I was wondering that. I don't know.
If you could, I would take the Hoosiers. Did you watch them?
I did. They had a great game. It was a
oh man,
big win. It's a resume builder. Number 13, Kentucky. You know, I think it was last year they beat them at Kentucky.
Yeah, so they beat the crap out of them. They had some girl on Kentucky, like preseason All-American, SEC Player of the Year, and she was just invisible. It was fun to watch. The crowd looked awesome too.
Oh yeah, they had a nice crowd in there, from what I understand. A tournament style crowd standing in there.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But yeah, I was watching. I was hanging on to that Steelers game last night, going, "Come on, man!" Didn't happen.
No,
didn't happen.
That's right.
Indiana basketball looking good. Their last game. They got a game coming up this Wednesday against. I'm drawing a blank here. St. John's, who has been scoring points, man. They've been scoring points. I need to pull St. John's up.
Yeah, it'll be kind of fun because Indiana's been just suffocating. I know they haven't played, potentially, I guess, tournament teams, but thus far, played the
Northern Illinois was coming off of a road win at Washington. So
I mean, that's a win. That's a good win.
Yeah,
and they got steamrolled.
Oh, it was like somebody Indiana threw a blanket over them, and that was it.
Yeah. I guess most people probably watching this don't know because we couldn't watch the game, which is just an outrageous. Don't even get me started. I understand you're trying to drive revenue, but goodness gracious.
When I heard
is this really what we're gonna do?
When you're gonna put it on Big Ten Plus, I didn't realize Big Ten Plus was basically, where I sit in my media seat it's called a TV Lodge. There's a camera next to me. It's up in one of the corners, so we're right next to the bleachers. But in the corners, or some of the corners, they have cameras sometimes. The opening game, there was a Big Ten camera there. For this game, there was nothing there. There was no camera there. Because for Big Ten Plus, they basically used what looked like two camcorders on a tripod up, midway up.
I've heard the coverage was just ridiculous. You're paying extra for this premium subscription, and they
simulcasted it with the IU radio broadcast, which is great. But so all they got was seeing this, basically listening to Don Fischer, which you enjoy. But how you charge people for that?
Yeah, I don't know. And then just to back that up by the sound going out for the IU Rutgers football game was just awesome. Right,
I was not aware of that. What happened there?
Oh yeah. So right before half, just this audio went out, I guess, for the guys in the booth, and so they had to send it back to wherever they do the halftime show from. I think it's Chicago, and they're just trying to commentate this game with four people. It was very, very just kind of uncomfortable. No one really knew what to say. IU's getting destroyed. It was all bad. It was horrible.
Well, I guess it's great that it went out, but guys talking about having to pay $10 to watch that game, but basically it was terrible. I mean, they were getting lit up on social media.
But it's fun to watch wins. Seems like we're gonna get to watch a bunch of them from the Hoosiers.
Well, yeah, because there won't be on Big Ten Plus anymore.
Yeah,
so
right.
There's that. Michael Niehaus talking about awful camera work also by IU game many times. They zoomed in on the shooter, and you couldn't see if the ball went in. Yeah, I heard that a lot.
That's kind of fun.
And not only do they have, look like camcorders on tripods, they must have had some. I don't know if it was students. I don't want to, crack on but obviously very inexperienced camera people. But you can also, there's probably only so much you can do with those camcorders. I mean, basically had camcorders as opposed to TV cameras. The really big TV cameras that are up there and the guys are moving around. That's what's normally in that corner.
Yeah.
And
it's certainly an uphill battle. An inexperienced camera operator with 1995 technology.
with a camera that probably has very limited capabilities.
Yeah, right.
Why would you do that? I mean, if you're going to do that, why not at least put two good cameras in?
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to me. I think Indiana should buy their own camera equipment with the Cuban Center. I mean, I know they have tons and
I'm
tons
sure
and
they've
tons
got
of their
all
own.
kinds of stuff.
Well, I know they have all their own good stuff, but I'm talking about that quality. I mean, TV quality, and say, screw the Big Ten. Well, they can't, I guess, but
I'm surprised. I'm surprised more, and it probably has something to do with the Big Ten Network, but more teams haven't tried to do what the Texas media department did a couple years ago.
You just can't, because it's a lot easier.
Like the licenses and.
Well, it's a reason that the Indiana teams or the Big Ten teams make the money that they do from the Big Ten is the Big Ten Network. You're not going to be able to, and ESPN or whomever or Fox, they're not going to want individual agreements with all these different schools. That's way too much to deal with. The Texas deal, I still don't understand it, other than them being big, because they're not good at anything.
No, I love them getting beat by Kansas at home in football.
How does that happen?
I love that. I have no idea.
It's so funny. Okay, when I was scrolling through the bets, I saw that, and because it was a live bet, it was going on, and I'm like, wait a minute.
You have to look at the screen a couple times.
Well, they were giving
basketball.
That's exactly what I thought. I swear to God.
Maybe any other sport?
I swear to God, it's so funny. I'm like, am I in the wrong section? I kept scrolling back and forth because there's no way that Kansas is, first of all, up whatever they were up. And I'm like, how the hell are they giving up points or whatever? I said, this game's at Texas. I go, this cannot be football, because I know Kansas is potentially one of the worst programs in all of Division I football.
Yeah.
And
so who do you think wakes up more sad on Monday morning? Texas football fans or Indiana football fans?
You have to be Texas football fans, because
I don't even think it's close.
Well, I talked about this last week, and we have an update on it because Kansas won. As of last week, there were only 3 Power 5 teams who were yet to beat a Power 5 program. Kansas beat Texas, so they're no longer one of them. So only Indiana and Vanderbilt have not beaten another Power 5 team as a Power 5 team themselves this season.
Oh, perfect. So that was a stat we didn't need. Thanks a lot.
I had to update because there were 3 and now there's 2. Will Indiana or Vanderbilt get a Power 5 win this season?
No. I doubt it, because Vanderbilt, I don't know how they end their season, but it doesn't usually matter because they're usually the punching bag in the SEC. And Indiana apparently has become that of the Big Ten, which is amazing. Shocking. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. But that's that was a surprise. But I just couldn't. I kept saying, is this in the wrong damn section? I said, this has to be the basketball game. How does that happen? How does Texas football lose at home to Kansas? We're sitting, I'm beating on Indiana, but I'm like, wow, that's ugly there. Wow. Texas has the largest budget of any athletics program in the country, and Texas football, you think of all that. Losing to Kansas is that's Indiana basketball losing to whoever the worst. I don't know. I'm trying to think how bad that would be.
Yeah,
that's bad. I mean, it's bad.
I don't even know. That was a tough day for the Longhorns fans, because then their basketball team got beat that night against Gonzaga, I believe. I know it's Gonzaga. Gonzaga's tough.
That was one of the bets I hit.
That was one of the bets I hit. Those boys can play.
Well, they got a team back that went to the freaking championship game.
And all they did was get better. That Chet Holmgren kid, I mean, he doesn't weigh 80 pounds, and he is just smooth. I'm excited. I'm hoping. I believe Indiana's going to be tough, and I'm excited for them to get to play a team like Gonzaga. And there's a bunch of them in the Big Ten. I'm excited to see where we're really at, because Trace is playing. I think he's playing at a different level than we've seen him. Maybe a little more energized. Got some guards around him. It'll be fun.
Kevin jumps on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, said it was amazing to hear Don and Kitch do the game. Ted Kitchell had to fill in, and I meant to mention that with Don on. Daggone it, I forgot. Ted Kitchell did the broadcast with Don because Eric Sewer had a death in his family that he had to deal with. So our thoughts and prayers with Eric Sewer.
But
Yeah.
people were treated to hearing Ted Kitchell do a broadcast with Don, which that was kind of cool, kind of a throwback kind of a deal there. So that was the only good part of it, I would say, I would imagine, for the viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I didn't get to hear it, but I'm sure Don Fischer made it just an absolute breeze for Mr. Kitchell. He's in pro and Hall of Fame talent.
That sounds like Mitchell Page, pro
See
Hall
that.
of Fame talent, brother.
I went
I
digging
can't-
for that compliment. I appreciate it.
You don't
Appreciate
ever
you
have to dig
swooping
for
in.
those here, man. We appreciate you as always. I hope your week
Yeah.
goes well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna try to sell some commercial properties. So
We'll
if
have to
anybody
do that.
listening is interested, give me a call.
Down in
Oh, we got a question. I just popped this up from David.
oops.
Yeah.
For Mitchell, do many of your high schools in Western Europe play American football? Are there any recruiting opportunities over there?
Yeah.
Mitchell,
So this-
having played over in Austria recently.
Austria and Germany. I've been around Europe and learned how that system works. It's actually really interesting. They do it very similar to how they do soccer. It's not necessarily a school sport. Like you don't grow up. I grew up in Carmel, Indiana, so I grew up playing like Carmel Dad's Club at Carmel Middle School, and then went to Guerin. It's not like that. It's more of an academy style. So when I was with the Vienna Vikings, you've got
Vienna
6-year-old,
Vikings.
yep, 6-year-old Vienna Vikings that play with the program all the way up through. I played on the AFL team, and now there's ELF. They just recently joined, which is a new pro league going up over there that's having some success. So you can go all the way from being 6 years old all the way to playing the highest level professional football you can in Europe, all through the same program. So it's a different program, but it's pretty cool. You get to know the guys, and you get comfortable in a place pretty quick. It's a cool program.
That's wild. I did not know that. Hey, you're welcome to stick on if you want to. Angelo Pizzo is joining us next. Over the weekend, they had a viewing of Hoosiers put together with a lot of deleted scenes that most people have not seen, edited into the movie where they were supposed to go at the time.
No way.
And it was the first time that Angelo got to see it because someone at the Hoosier gym actually did this and put it together. And because the studio wanted it to be under 2 hours, so they had to cut like 30 minutes out.
Wow.
So it changes the movie. What's the guy that gets kicked off the team? Damn it. Early on, there's a guy that gets kicked off the team.
Oh,
Come
that
on,
comes
didn't you
back,
say
the
you wanted
big
to
guy.
play? He ends
Oh,
up getting
man.
let back. Well, another one gets, they show, I think the other one got to get back on the team as well. But they show
I
how
haven't
that
seen movie
happened.
forever.
The relationship between Norman Dale and Myra Fleener. There was more stuff to that. So we'll talk about that.
I would be fascinated to watch that. That would be so good.
I know, and none of us get to because we weren't there. So we'll have to talk to him about that, the possibility. But you're welcome to stay on, but we got to take a break to do that. If Mitchell's here when we come back, he's here. And if not, we love him to death. Hey, we got more coming up. Angelo Pizzo joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with that after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
If you're in the market, I wish I could have gone to that. That would have been cool as crap to see that
man
in the Hoosier gym. They showed it in the stinking Hoosier gym.
Yeah, probably a one-time only viewing thing.
Yeah, because it was not official. Like I said, someone that through the director, it was a woman. She did it. You might want to reach out to.
I did.
Okay.
He's. I told him to check his email. He said he'll be right there. And if not,
have you met Angelo before, Mitchell?
Yes. Yeah. Really cool dude. We got to watch when I was in college. We got to watch his movie My All-American, I think it was.
Yeah.
We had like a private viewing for the football team, which was cool.
Oh yeah, he also did Rudy.
Yeah. I got to meet Rudy.
Did you
That was-
really?
Oh, wow.
my
My
God,
first
that
week.
was it.
First
Oh,
week.
that's
I'll
great
have to find-
conversation. That's conversation coming.
I'll have to pull up the picture. Yeah, I'm gonna stay on. Angelo's the man.
Oh, you got a picture? Oh,
I
send that
gotta
to
find
John.
this. I gotta find it.
Oh, send that to John. Hey, so you're in Charleston, right?
Yes.
Do you have a name of the company or anything?
Sands Investment Group. Sand like the beach, but plural. SANDS. You don't have to promote that. I don't care.
I know, but I like to.
I'm not going to tell you not to.
I know
We
that.
do some good work. We do a lot of. We do work all around the country.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Not just on the sands.
Not just on the sands. I wish just on the beach, but unfortunately not. Let me try to find. I gotta find this picture.
All right, I sent the link to his phone in case he was having trouble because he may be having some problems getting on. But he'll be here.
He usually doesn't. He usually makes it.
All right, here we go. Coming back.
Market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indiehomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indiehomepros.com. Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. I hope you're having a good start to the week. We are, because Mitchell Page is with us right now, waiting for Angelo Pizzo to join. As over the weekend in Knightstown at the Hoosier Gym, he was able to see a screening of never seen before director's cut of the movie, but it was because two people who work at the gym really inspired and put that together. One is the director, Angelo, joining us now. Hey, Angelo, how are you, brother?
I'm good. I had trouble getting on my computer.
No worry. We've got Angelo or Mitchell Page is with us. He
Hey,
wanted to stay
Mitchell.
on since you were coming on. Well, now his computer drops out as soon as you say that. He'll be back here in a second. But yeah, we were talking about the screening. He's like, man, we were both so jealous that we didn't get to see that because it sounded like it was just a fun time and really made it not a completely different movie, but gives you a different feel for it.
Yes. Could you hold on 1 second? I'm having difficult hearing you. So I'm.
Oh yeah, no problem. We're waiting for Mitchell to get back on as well, but just jealous.
Okay, I got
it. We're just jealous, talking about how jealous we were that we didn't get to see that, because man, oh man, to have those scenes put back into the movie when it hasn't been done or seen, that had to be just cool as heck.
Yeah, I had my. Honestly, I had a lot of questions about it simply because I hadn't seen that version in 35 years. Just to give you some context about what I'm talking about in terms of which version, when David and I, we cut down a very, very long film. It was originally 3.5 hours, our first cut. I mean, we had every basketball game almost from start to finish. So a lot of the basketball games that we had played out, dramatized, were kind of shortened in a lot of montages to get us down to the length that we liked the best, which was 2 hours and 27 minutes. And we presented that to the studio, and they said there's not a chance in hell that they're going to release a film longer than 2 hours. The truth is, they didn't really want to release the film at all. They didn't believe in the movie. and there were constant fights between the financing company, Hemdale, and Orion Pictures, which was the distributing company. They had an overall deal, so they were forced to release the film, but more on their terms. So because of the Directors Guild gives the right to their directors to test screen any cut they want. David was allowed to, we were allowed to test this movie at 2 hours and 27 minutes. And we did it in Irvine, California. And it was an extraordinary experience because it was the first time that we had screened the film for people who had never seen it before, who had no connection to it, not friends or family or workers, fellow workers. But it turned out to be better than we could ever imagine. And we scored the highest score in the history of test screenings for Orion Pictures. And I'll never forget walking out of the theater afterwards, talking to the president of the company. And we had, he was insisting that we release the film with the title, The Last Shot, instead of Hoosiers. He just hated the term Hoosiers. He said too many people are not going to know what it means. So he said, okay, I'll give you the title, but you still have to cut it. You have to deliver a print under 2 hours. He said, I trust you guys know what you're doing. You got a great response. So you figure it out. Well, Dave and I had to go back into the cutting room. And that last 30 minutes that we cut was extremely painful. And we delivered a hour and 57-minute cut, which was released. We didn't think it was going to work out because we didn't think that what it was eviscerated was the relationship between Myra Fleener, the Barbara Hershey character, and Norman Dale, Gene Hackman character. There were literally 5 scenes that we cut out, and I kept on making that when they kiss at the end, there's no way that's believable because all the scenes that preceded it built to that moment. And Barbara was so upset when she saw the cut that she refused to do any publicity or marketing and had a proviso in all her interviews after that to never mention the word Hoosiers. So, and we also cut one of the most beautiful scenes, the most beautiful scene in the movie, and that was a harvest scene where we showed what these people did. We showed they were farmers and how they worked together, and the meaning of their work. The biggest point of contention to this day is we cut out a scene where Buddy asked to come back on the team. I mean, Buddy is kicked off and then he comes and just all of a sudden magically appears and nobody, it was bad storytelling, but it was because of that cut. So anyway, when 28 years later, MGM, who now owns the rights to Hoosiers, came to us, they asked us if we would do a director's cut, and we were thrilled to put that 30 minutes back in. However, the original negative of the film was lost or destroyed because Hemdale, the production company, went out of business. Therefore, we had to hunt around to see even if that footage existed anywhere. Well, it turned out it was in the garage of the editor. And what was left, what was there was actually literally a rough print. Literal negative film with scratches on it. And it was just the working cut that working film we were used to. In those days, you actually worked on film, not on your computer, not digitally. So we looked at the quality and of course made the request in order to fix all of the scratches and the color imbalance, plus score the existing scenes with Jerry Goldsmith's material. It would cost close to $150,000. They were not going to put that in. So they did offer something we did do is we took the last 30 minutes in individual scenes and just lined them up and released them on the second DVD in that 20th anniversary. And then David and I do an audio commentary over the scenes, talking about their importance and what they meant. Anyway, excuse me.
this is a long answer, but I had to bring you to this place. I got a call from Bob Garner at the Hoosier Gym with the idea of trying to interstitch those scenes digitally on a computer back into the movie. And he said he's curious to see what the movie looked like. Well, he called me and he said, I found a young lady from IUPUI who was going to help me do this. And they did it. He said it's better than the original movie by far. And I said, well, I've always felt that way, but I'm curious to see it myself. He said, well, I'm thinking about just screening it at the Hoosier Gym as a fundraiser, and you're welcome to come up and take a look at it there. It's only going to be a one-time thing, and my fear was the quality was going to be pretty bad, and it was. Didn't look. I mean, it was all muddy and the sound was bad. But there were 800 people who loved it there, and I was really curious to watch the movie with all those scenes again. Not only because it's been 35 years, but it's been about 10 years since I've seen the movie. So I was seeing it like for the first time in a certain kind of way, and it was both a revelation and a gut punch that this was a far better movie than the movie that was released, the 2 hours and 27 minutes. And I have a mission that it'll take $100,000 or $200,000 to do it, but I would like to try, and I'm going to make some phone calls and it'll be an exploratory search to figure out how to get this new cut out there, because the revelation for me was kind of what I imagined, that the Gene and Barbara relationship takes on a totally different layer, puts a different emotional layer into the movie, and it really is very powerful, and because both those actors are terrific, and if you cut 6 of their scenes out or 5 of their scenes out, it's devastating to that relationship. And you learn a lot more about them, about their background and their past and their hopes in their future. So that's my hope that someday other people can see it beside the 800 in the Hoosier Gym last Saturday.
Yeah, because I was not there. Mitchell was not there. I wish I could have seen that, because it sounds so incredible. And
well, I did hear from a lot of people feeling the same way that you have. And yeah.
Well, we just lost him. He'll be back. He'll jump back on there. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure he can come up with that money to get that done. But that's amazing that you would think that with hopefully today's digital world that they can digitize that to get that back, because man, I hope I wish the Hoosier.
All right, I'm back. Sorry.
I told you he'd be back. I was just saying, I was like, man, I hope that, because that's almost like a whole new movie. And I think that it's it's still such a movie that is, people love it. And they're like, oh yeah. And especially like you said, you haven't seen it in 10 years. There's probably a lot of other people who haven't seen it in a long time, but it would be like seeing a whole different movie that they already know is good, but that is made better.
Right.
Well, I asked, one of my concerns was my thinking warped? Was our thinking warped at the time in thinking that was the proper length? My fear or my concern was that with adding 30 minutes to the film, it would seem too long, that it would drag, just because people are used to it at that length, at the 2 hour length. And everybody I talked to there felt that it didn't seem longer at all. And everyone really gave a very powerful version, without exception. And I asked some people, give me the real truth. And I mean, the movie worked like gangbusters, and I knew it would, because it was the same version that we had at that test market screening 35 years ago in Irvine.
Yeah, Mitchell.
Hey, Mitch, how you doing?
Yeah, sorry I was a little late to this party. I had some audio issues, but It's good to see you again. It's been a very long time.
It
now
has.
we can come in and talk about this. Sounds
Yeah.
like this was an awesome thing last Saturday.
Are you still playing golf?
Of course. Of course. I actually I had to move south so I could play golf more often.
He's in South
Where are
Carolina.
you?
Charleston, South Carolina.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, my son plays, and you were going to play with him at one time. He played. He was on scholarship at IUPUI.
I know.
And he's actually working on a film in Augusta, Georgia. So
No
you should
way.
go over, and he's gonna play the Masters. He's gonna get on that course before he
Oh
leaves.
my gosh.
Wow, nice,
gosh.
very nice.
I'll give you his number.
Please do. Please do. I'll tell him, I was with your dad on a podcast.
Now
Like,
I'm
"Who the heck are
jealous
you?"
because Mitchell's
No,
gonna
he
end
knows
up
you.
playing at Augusta.
Okay. No, I'm not going to do
If
that.
you end up, Mitchell, if you end up playing Augusta, I better get a phone call. I will drive down there.
No,
I
I'll
will
just
drive
die.
down there.
I would just die. I
Um,
would cease to exist after that. That would be the peak.
Yeah.
I wouldn't need anything else.
I don't think people, if you're about golf, trying to get on Augusta is like maybe trying to get on an Angelo Pizzo film. It's not easy.
Oh,
man.
yeah, right.
You got to be good. You've got to be at the top, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You don't have to be good. You just have to know somebody who's a member.
There you go.
Angelo, I do
And
have a question, or I guess a comment. Just hearing you talk about how different the relationship between Normandale and what's her name again? I'm the guy that has
Myra Fleener.
Yes,
Barbara Hershey.
It's like, and maybe this is because I was a 5-year-old in Indiana thinking about the basketball more than anything, but that relationship isn't something when I look back on the movie, I'm like, well, what was going on there? I think about obviously the drunk dad coach, Jimmy Chitwood, and winning the state championship, and having a different element into that. I can't imagine how much better that would make the movie. It becomes a lot less just a story about a team versus a story about a town, and I think that would have been an awesome thing to see.
It's true, and you also, it's more of a story. You learn more about Normandale as a person, not just as a coach. You know, you're learning some of his own vulnerabilities, his past, and his hopes for the future. It really just fully dimensionalizes the character in a way that we couldn't do. And of course, the same goes for Myra Fleener. And there were 2 or 3 of those scenes that they were so good in, because the acting level of those two are just over the top. And it's a shame. It really is a shame that it had to go. But you mentioned something that's important. The reason they did go, what we cut them, is because we had to prioritize the things that were money. And what was money was Dennis Hopper and the relationship with his son and the kids. We didn't cut anything having to do with those guys. And so we're not the first movie that first filmmakers that had to cry over spilt milk of cutting room floor stuff. But, maybe we could, just because of the fact that the movie is sustained this many years and the interest is, I believe, high enough, I think I would like to pursue doing a new cut.
That would be incredible for everyone. Anyone that's ever seen the movie, I can't imagine. If you think it's better than the original movie, I mean, that's a movie that I watched every day as a kid. Like it is.
Well,
it is.
thank you. So did you bring Mitchell on to ask about the football program?
No, actually, no.
We
I
don't
said
even
let's
talk
not.
about football anymore.
Yes, we kind of jumped right past that, and we were talking about basketball though.
That's good. Jump right past it. I'll talk about basketball.
Yeah, basketball was at the game against Northern Illinois. Man, that was a great, and you got St. John's coming up, but that was a fun game watching, being there. If you weren't there, people watching on Big Ten Plus were not happy, but if you were there, you were happy. Man, that the difference between the first game and the second game, big jump.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, I think that there was just a lot of feeling out in that first game. There a lot. I mean, these players, it's so different. when you're playing under the lights as to practicing, and so many of them had not played with each other before. So I think there's just a lot of rust that needs to be shaken off. I think that Woody's trying to find the right combinations. Our team has never been more deep that I can remember. I mean, when you're sitting Christian Lander the entire game and it's a blowout until the last 5 minutes, I mean, he's a really talented kid. Anthony Leal played a ton last year. He barely got in the game. We're really loaded. It's just really trying to find the right combination and trying to find that missing element from last year in the first game, and that's shooting. And so I think that the two key players to me, in terms of the newcomers, we know Trace is the most important player and Race, but is Xavier Johnson, who has a little bit of a junkyard dog kind of chip on his shoulder. He plays with a toughness. And I think we missed that last year, that kind of guy. And he can get to the basket because of his strength better than any other guard. And he defends really, really well. He's not a great shooter. He's turnover prone, but you take the good with the bad when you have somebody like that out there. And Rob is a great, Rob's not new, but those two guys when they're out there on the front and when they're playing together, they're really tough guard. I think that's what impressed me about the second game was how they shut down those guards. They just couldn't do anything. And then the other newcomer that really hasn't shown yet, I've been to practice a couple of times, and I think probably the player with the highest ceiling that we haven't even seen a glimpse of, and that's Tamar Bates. That guy does not have a flaw. He is spectacular. I mean, he could be stronger, and he will get stronger, but he plays with great confidence. He really is a fantastic shooter. He can drive. He can defend. I think at times he was confused out there more on the defensive end than anything else, but I think he's going to be he's at least at a minimum all Big Ten by the time he leaves.
I agree with you 100%. I think you nailed it all, everything there. And Tamar is just he's clay in Mike Woodson's hand. That I shouldn't say clay because he's better than that already, but he's learning. He's a freshman, but he's out there learning. You can tell he's not trying to do too much. In 14 minutes of the night, he was in there feeling his way through. But I agree, man. He's going to be a guy that kind of explodes a little bit because he's got a lot of talent. He looks good out there on the floor. He moves well. He just looks like he's learning. Mitchell,
have you had him on the show?
No, not yet.
You should get him on the show. He's very charming, personable, charismatic, intelligent, confident, and he's got a great sense of humor too.
Yeah, all the guys they seem like they've opened up, Mitchell. They seem more relaxed this year.
Well, I can tell you this. You know where I sit. I sit right across from the team, right next to Mellencamp. Okay, those seats. And and the difference between the energy and the smiles or the expressions on the kids' faces and the energy between the Archie years and the Woody, so far these first two games, it's completely night and day. I mean, those guys look like they're having a blast. And boy, it was like, it was like the death march over there in that last year with Archie. It was the Grim Reapers.
Yeah. And and that's another thing that has been said about them on post-game shows that we've had, that they are having so much fun together and they look like they truly like each other. They like being with each other. They enjoy each other's company. And that's tantamount for a team, Mitchell. Can't get it out.
Yeah. That's a hard word to get out. I wouldn't have been able to get that one out either. But I think more than anything, I saw a picture. This is a random Instagram picture of Anthony Leal, a guy that you mentioned hasn't really sniffed the court. He's in full warm-up gear during the game. Something's happened on the court, and he's celebrating with the biggest smile I've probably seen him have since he's been at IU, and definitely bigger than anybody else. I think he's a pretty happy dude. It looks like he's having a good time most of the time, but it just was a real, true happiness picture. It was awesome. That's something that I saw that, like you said, we didn't see a lot last couple of years. But I heard Angelo mention one thing that I think is so important. They made shots.
Yeah.
And when the ball goes in the basket, it is so
makes
much
life easier.
easier. Yes, it is so much easier to get out and kind of run. And at least in their first 2 games, the way they play defense is going to keep them in every game. But when they make shots, they're dangerous.
Well, they shot 35% from the 3-point, Angelo, and if they can shooting 35% in this day and age, they'll take that all day long, especially when you're hitting 48%. But more importantly, when you're shutting the team down that you're playing, and you put all that together, that's just a winning formula.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We've all seen this so many times, but one of the differences between the first and second game is that that shooting is contagious. When you're and both good and bad. When you're missing shots, everybody seems to be missing shots, and when you're hitting, it kind of rolls from player to player. And I saw that in that first game. In the second half, when the other Eastern Michigan started to make their move, the shots that came, those 3-point shots, some of them felt like they were pressing and they were forcing them up there. It didn't feel like it was in rhythm. And I think that when this team does have capability, they have shooters. Parker Stewart and Miller Kopp can shoot. They just have to find their spots, and their teammates have to know where their best the best spots for them to get the ball at the right time. And that's just learning. That's a learning proposition.
As soon as you
playing
said
real live.
That reminded
games.
me of an old movie, or not, I shouldn't say old, but The Natural. There's a scene or several scenes in The Natural where they're losing, they're terrible, but they bring in a sports psychologist, and he's like, losing is contagious. But as soon as you said that, it just reminded me of the scenes of that little bitty short psychologist they tried to bring in. And this is a movie that was set in the 30s or 40s, whenever that was for that
It's true,
movie.
though.
But it was,
just look at IU football.
It's true.
Well, I thought we weren't going to talk about that.
See, he keeps trying to bring it back.
That's all I think about. God.
I was talking about a movie. I was talking about The Natural, man. It's baseball even.
Yeah, it's just well, good and bad. When things start rolling, it starts rolling downhill and things get easier. It's easier to lose more when you're losing, and it's easier to win more when you're winning.
So Mitchell, I have a question for Mitchell.
I hopefully have an answer.
Oh, you will.
There, and it is about the Indiana football program. I'm just going to ask a question this way, which is, there are certain things that are obvious that have hurt this team. Injuries being the number one thing, and a couple of other more obvious things I won't get into. But how do you explain a team that was rated 12th last year, at the beginning of the season, 15th or 17th, that right now is arguably the worst Power 5 team in the country? And how do you explain the Rutgers game, which was a complete crash and burn in a stunning? I've never seen any Indiana any program in Indiana go from the heights to the depths as quickly as this one. There have to be other factors that we're not seeing. It just doesn't make any sense.
Boom.
Yeah. This past Saturday was stunning. It was a complete lack of any effort. I sat on the couch and just stared at the TV. It was, you couldn't even be mad. It's true. I mean, something bad would happen, guys would just get up and walk to the sideline. Something good would happen, they would get up and walk to the sideline. There was no life. And I think that's a product of 9 previous games being what they were. like we said, losing gets easier. I think we're kind of at a point where Jim and I have talked about this. You just have expected these kinds of results now because they are playing so poorly. But I don't know what caused. They had some things not go their way. They got absolutely blown out against Iowa, and that could be a variety of things, right? Indiana's at heights that they haven't seen at least in a really long time. And it's easy to kind of puff your chest out and say, look how good we are. But then when you get punched in the face like that, usually I would expect the team to be like, okay, maybe we do need to figure it out. And I think something that was said this weekend from Micah McFadden should not be overlooked. As a guy like Micah McFadden, that even though they've been as bad as they've been, he's still an All-American player. He shows up every single week. He's the absolute beacon of light on the team. And he's a real leader. So for him to come out and say, basically, we should have prepared better in the fall. It tells me that.
Well, he was calling guys out. He said
He said certain players didn't prepare properly in the fall.
I'm not gonna say anything about any specific player, but I think he's speaking to kind of the big head that the program had, and they got to this point by working way harder than teams in the past have, and then they kind of rested on it, and they're like, all right, we've made it. And there was a very apparent lack of preparation through the summer, in the spring and the summer, that we're seeing glaring right now. And once you're behind, everything just compounds on itself, right? It multiplies. Once you get behind that 8 ball, it's really hard to catch up to all these other teams that maybe are multiplying. If you're just multiplying by 1.1%, other teams are now starting to multiply by 2 and 3 and 4. You look at Ohio State, they started off awful, but they've obviously prepared a little bit different than some other teams have, and now they're one of the best teams in the country again. You just don't. Indiana is not. They don't look prepared. They don't look like they have any fight. It's been really, really disappointing. Hard to watch, and I can't imagine being in that locker room or being in those coaches' meetings. What the mood has to be, because I don't know. I mean, what do you say? What do you say? Getting mad at a team like that isn't going to help. They're already mad at themselves. Being positive with a team like that is hard, because what did they do good? What did they do well? I can't think of a single thing they did well. So it's Coach Allen. I'm nowhere near the fire Coach Allen. I'm not even close to that. But it is. He's got a hard job in front of him to prove that this isn't something that just happened last year where we all of a sudden we were good, right? We started building this with Coach Wilson to where the most important thing started changing, and that was the mindset of players. We would finish 6-6, and it was great to go to a bowl game, but we were never like, yes, we're 6-6.
Yeah.
Right. We expected to win more than that. And that was because Coach Wilson, and it's something that's carried on through Allen. And it's been going for however long. I'm old now. It's probably been 8 years, but he's got a tough job to, one, sell recruits that this isn't the new norm, to sell the guys in the locker room that something's going to change. I just, like I said, I can't imagine being in there, and it's got to be like going to the graveyard every day.
Well, he's the reigning coach of the year, and he's certainly going to be earning his salary in terms of the challenge, as you mentioned. And you laid out the aspects that are most challenging, which is recruiting. You know, that we were a program on the rise, and people bought in. They bought stock in that idea. And now, what do you say? How do you explain this year and the fall off? I think that you're mentioning Ohio State as an example of a certain. but Ohio State is always going to be different than Indiana. I think the closer team is Purdue, and how good a team they put together this year after having been predicted to be 11th in the conference. I think that the attitude that Indiana had last year and the year before was they had a chip on their shoulder, that they had to prove that they weren't just the old Indiana football team. And this year, I think Purdue had that chip on their shoulder too, that they were going to show everybody that they were better than 11th. Whereas Indiana didn't have any. They felt they played like they had arrived, and they didn't have to prove anything. That they proved it last year, and a little bit of it was a little bit of a perfect storm last year because of COVID and no crowds and just low expectations all around from a lot of programs. And we had a lot of good karma. A lot of good things went our way. And I think that we went to the Karma Bank this year and we found our account had been overdrawn.
Oh, that's that may be the greatest analogy I've heard yet.
Hard. We don't have anybody that – last year we made a lot of the 50-50 plays down the field.
Yeah.
And
turnovers.
Oh, gosh.
We led the nation in turnovers, plus turnovers.
Yeah, we weren't good on offense last year.
No, we didn't have a great running game last year.
No, we were never good on offense. Our defense was just exceptional. And it's still good this year. They just haven't got the takeaways.
They haven't gotten takeaways.
Sometimes that doesn't happen.
But our offense is arguably the worst in the Power 5 world. And
I don't think it's an argument.
Yeah, okay, it is. It was between us and Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt can outscore us. Yeah. And so here's a statistic for you, Mitchell, and that is that Indiana doesn't have a single wide receiver touchdown in any Power 5 game, any Big Ten game. The only reception wide receiver was in Idaho, right?
Yeah.
How do you explain that? I mean, you go from
the most absurd stats I've ever heard.
Yeah.
From a passing team.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I cannot thank you enough. Angelo, you're welcome anytime. Come on to Talk Sports, man. He's great at it, and we love having him on. It's always a blast, and I know that's a lot more fun to do, especially basketball as the basketball season goes on. So we'll have you on as the season goes on, and we're going to talk hoops.
To talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about hoops, especially when Mitchell joins us or the other guys. So we have to make this a regular thing. Mitchell and Angelo. That sounds like a business that should open up.
That can be a thing. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I'm on.
Well, sounds great, guys. We got to take a break.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Angelo Pizzo, the great Angelo from here in Bloomington, of course, from Hoosiers, and the great Mitchell Page as well, guys. Appreciate you all so much. Mitchell, make sure you reach out to him if you're looking for a property anywhere, but especially in Charlestown. What was that? Sands Investment Group? There you go.
Oh, yeah.
That's where
nationwide, baby.
Nationwide. Nationwide. Yeah. Hey, coming up next, we're talking a little bit more basketball. You're welcome to stay as well. But Jim Reamer joining us next here on Indiana Sports Beat. Back with more after that.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
We're only going to have 10 minutes, just so you know.
Angelo is a talker.
Me too.
Nice haircut. Reamer got him a haircut, man.
No, that's
he also had a Hickory Hoosier shirt on. I don't know if you saw that earlier.
Right?
Oh, no shit. Did you make it out to that?
No, I didn't.
Son of a bitch. I am so I wish I could. There was just too much. Last week may have been the busiest week of all time. All at 2 football games and multiple coaches shows and press conferences and a football game and all that crap.
Yeah.
And
Mitchell,
I'd love to have gone to that. Yeah,
Mitchell,
brother?
you remember playing in the fall league?
Of course. I was just about to bring it up. Just about to bring it up. I was probably the worst player.
Oh, you were not. No, that's not true. That's definitely not true. Were you one of the ones we kept off the? Were you one of the ones we kept off the rosters because of the football thing?
I think so.
We've had a few guys that have done that.
Hiding people.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they're allowed to play. It's just that, like, by rule. But some school coaches, understandably, don't want their guys doing stuff during season. And, but he wanted to play. So you were at Guerin by then, right?
Yeah.
When did you leave Carmel?
After my freshman year.
Freshman year? Okay.
Yeah, so it would have been 2010.
And he was blocked.
He was. Well, back then we weren't signing off on anybody, I don't think.
Yeah. There have been a couple people that were getting signed off, and mine, for whatever reason, did not, which I'm not.
Oh, really? Didn't know that.
Yeah. It was fine.
I just assumed that was that Galloway? Basketball-wise, was that Galloway?
Yeah, Galloway and Moriarty. It was more Moriarty and
Really? Mo Moriarty at that time?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, the Bloomington South coach. Holy.
Yeah, he brought me into his little office when I was deciding to transfer. I was as a 5'4", 105-pound freshman. That was a little intimidating.
Little Scott
What did he say? I'm going to block your transfer.
He tried to convince me to stay.
Oh.
I wasn't that small. I wasn't going to start. I would play defense. I was a corner.
Yeah,
I
makes
was going
sense.
to get some action as a sophomore. I'm playing corner.
There's a kid that left Carmel for basketball this year that transferred to Guerin, and they signed off on that.
Yeah, they've definitely gotten more open to the idea. It was just early when Guerin was starting.
I think the court may have helped them last year when they ripped the IHSA a new one.
Yeah.
Here we go. 10 seconds.
All right, I actually have to
Get
bounce.
more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
See you, dude.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. Jim Reamer joining us now. We were having some fun with Mitchell in the break there.
You didn't know we knew each other, yeah.
Well, I just forget because I forget everything. But the Carmel thing, I forget he was started out at Carmel. So
he was a good basketball player, and he was really good for Guerin. And
he's a great athlete. He's just a great athlete.
And he was a kid that would always play basketball during football season.
We talked about him, and he played on a team that they had pigtails on their shorts. You have to ask him about that. I forget. It was so funny.
Where was this?
It may have been at Guerin or something to do with that. I forget, but but it was definitely basketball related. But we tried to talk mostly about basketball because football is just a depressing conversation right now. But basketball on the other side is not. And especially the difference that Indiana saw and fans saw between, many of them saw it, but in games 1 and 2, big difference offensively, man. They in not having the letdown, not resting, not taking your foot off, they never took their foot off in the first game. They never put their foot on the throat in the first game. They played and then they stopped. This game they didn't. And Trace Jackson Davis, I think, got an understanding of his motor has to run high the whole time he's in the game, and it did, and it showed. Now, of course, this is Northern Illinois, but he's also getting some great help from Race Thompson. I mean, Race pulling down a double-double, making life a little easier for him.
Well, the Northern Illinois, there was a lot more focus offensively the second game throughout, and everything's easy when you're hitting shots. Like the beginning, the beginning of the Central Michigan game or the Eastern Michigan game. It looked great when they were hitting shots. I mean, all offense looks better there, but they got away from it. Obviously, they stopped hitting shots, and their defense was really really relaxed in the second half. And in the second game against Northern Illinois, the defensive end was pure energy the whole game, and that was, that allowed them to go through some still some below average perimeter shooting. But then offensively, they kept their focus, which was, look, if they didn't get something quick, they were going to the paint, whether it be going down to Trace in the low post or playing high-low with Race or and they were running some stuff. And I think Trace will get better at handling the double team and not just completely getting pushed out of the paint on his post-ups, which I think a lot of times is, I guess it's not that he got pushed out. It is that he did go out to get the catch, and then he was putting himself in a position where it was easier for him to get doubled. But and as he's better at passing out of it, it always seemed like they doubled, or it always seemed like he was trying to pass out of it with his right. He was never in a position where he could go middle with his left. And I don't know if that'll be something they look at, or if that's even a thing, or it just happened to be something that they did over and over against Northern Illinois. But clearly they play with a lot more energy consistently than they did the first game.
Yeah, and Trace looked confident getting to the bucket. Xavier Johnson looked more like a floor leader. Didn't force. He only took 5 shots in the game, but he was 4 of 5, so very efficient. 4 of 4 at the free throw line. I mean, that's efficient. But more importantly, 2 turnovers. He played roughly 20 minutes, but he just didn't seem to force things at all. No. So that's great to have that out leading your team.
I like to see him get to the line that much, just in whatever minutes he played. That's a big deal, and that shows his. Someone had mentioned after the first game that they didn't think it wasn't just specifically about him; it was lumping him and Finney together. They didn't think they played all that well. But I think the difference between the two, or the difference of the two from last year, was that you got both those guys getting downhill a lot more, and being able to create defensive movement and helping them either get fouled or find people, and Xavier getting the line four more times a game, I think is going to be a big part of his offense.
Absolutely, and Rob Finney looks comfortable coming off the bench. Mm-hmm. That's not where he has been these last few years, obviously under Archie, but he looks very comfortable there. Comes in and hits some shots. He only took 2 3-pointers. He hit one of those. He was 2 or 3 at the free throw line. He gets 5 points in 16 minutes. There was a lot of nice efforts in guys that played, 14, 15 minutes or whatever. Mm-hmm. They contributed in a very good way. The 2 guys that I think are still searching, Miller Kopp. I think he's still looking for his role in this offense, but I think a lot of people still are looking as this offense comes together. Slowly gels. I think he's going to be a guy. I've said that on the night where maybe Xavier's not having a great night or Race isn't having as good night, that's where he's going to step up and hit some threes or whatever, because he's such a veteran player. But his numbers have not looked all that great thus far.
Well, with Miller, it's going to be about how he gets shots and where they come in the flow of the offense. And offensively, I'm still not able to tell. And again, I'm watching them in venues where I don't have a lot of audio. So I'm just watching the game, trying to get a feel for it, and don't really have that much of a feel yet for what Indiana's trying to do consistent, like continuity wise. Like, Charlie and I would talk a lot about how motion offense will be able to sustain a possession. So that's going to be the key for Indiana, is how do they possess the basketball while still looking to score and not have everything be piece by piece, because eventually teams are going to scout. I mean, eventually it'll be the next game probably against St. John's. Teams that'll have size where they won't have to double trace. So they definitely will have the size to battle him in the low post. It's not going to be as easy just to get one screening action and one pass to get the ball to trace inside. And it seemed to be how they started most of their second half possessions. If not, I didn't. By then, I was paying attention to how focused they were going to stay with the lead, and that'll get scouted out and that'll get taken away. So the rest of it's going to be is how do they possess the ball and how efficient do they become later in the shot clock.
And speaking of that, defensively, they did a great job on the Northern Illinois, a team that had just won on the road against the Washington team. We point that out because it's a legitimate win. But they hold this team to under 30% for most of the game. They end up shooting 30.4% for the game, 18% from 3, talking about Northern Illinois. when you're doing that and your shooting percentages are what they were for Indiana, that's a great recipe. Now, Indiana's not going to get to play Northern Illinois all year long. Coming up next, St. John's is a much sterner test of a team that can put the ball in the bucket. So the sustained defensive effort is definitely going to be something watched here.
Yeah. Well, it's look, you play the teams in front of you, and they did what they had to do to beat, they did what they had to do against Northern Illinois, which was control the game from the get. And that's good to watch, because I don't want to, dead horse beaten with the, previous coaching staff being gone. I mean, I would say the same thing if Archie was coach and this was the game. It'd be like, they didn't see that the last couple of years. There would be too many Eastern Michigan type situations where you kind of let inferior teams sort of hang around, and all of a sudden they catch fire and get confident, and then you're in a ball game.
Absolutely. What anything you have coming up, man?
We're getting close to high school basketball, so it's starting to ramp up, starting to go to more practices. Scrimmages start this week for all the schools, so there'll be a lot of games. You'll see a lot of things a lot of noise on Twitter about scrimmages and how guys looked coming up Wednesday, Thursday through the week. And then next week, next Monday's games. Next Monday is Warren Central versus Arsenal Tech. That's the first game I'll be going to. That'll be Monday night, the week, Thanksgiving week. So looking forward to it.
Big games. You can catch Jim on the boards on the Hoosier.com, Indiana Rivals, of course, or also Courtside Indiana, with a much more focus on the high school side of things. It's all there, man, and it's all about to come. We're looking forward to it. Looking forward to the college season getting underway. Gonzaga, Texas got a big game that played the other night, so we got that out of the way. So lots of fun coming. I think we're already out of time, man. But so thank you so much, Jimbo. I appreciate you as always. And we'll look forward to doing it again next week. Charlie will be back.
Cool. Be good to talk about some more IU games too.
We've got to do it. Hey, we've got to go. I can't thank everybody enough. Big thanks to Angelo Pizzo, of course, our good friend Mitchell Page, and Jim Reamer, of course, as I just mentioned, and John, the producer. But most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you all, we have no reason to be here. Go out and have yourselves a great Monday. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.